Okay, so the last thing we need here is we need to handle whenever we want to submit all of the data in this form. Now, remember that this app component here, it's just passing all of the data down from an object that lives outside of the app. But now that we want this data to change, we should probably put it in state. And so we're going to do exactly that. We're going to import the useState hook from React, and we're going to create 2 new state objects. Or we could just do this. We could just say const playlist. You know what? I'm going to keep them in different variables. Const playlist name set playlist name equals use state. And yeah, let's just use the data. So the other cool thing about this is we'll say data.name is that when you set the initial state for React, or for the useState here with the useState hook with data.name, even if we change this playlist name variable, it won't change data.name. We're only using this as the initial value to store in this variable. From then on, when we change the playlist name with the set playlist name function, it won't actually change this original object at all. This object will still say exactly the same. And that's kind of a good thing, and we do that pretty often in React. We want to create new versions of objects instead of manipulating old ones. You really don't want to modify or mutate state or mutate data unless you have to. And so in our case, the only things we want to mutate are these state variables. And so we can say const songs set songs equals use state data dot songs. And then we can construct the playlist by spreading out we could say name is playlist name, songs is songs. And so now we have the playlist name, we have the songs, and we can just, and honestly, we probably don't even need, again, then the playlist name doesn't have to be in state, but we're going to leave it there for now. And so then instead of passing data, we're just going to pass the whole playlist here. Oops. And we're going to save this and make sure everything is still working. Looks like it's still working. Nothing is broken. Cool. Still works. Oh, you know what? That's interesting. We haven't set this to start playing something. Oh, we could do that after. But now that we have this playlist name and songs variables set in state, we can now use them, or at least change them, with these handlers. So I'm going to pass this set songs handler to my playlist component. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. Let's do a little even better. Let's create a handler here also. Let's say const, let's just say add song, because we only want to be able to add songs for the moment. We might be able to want to delete songs later, but for the time being, let's just add songs. And we'll say, take the new song that we're going to add, and then we're going to call set songs, and we're going to return. And here's actually another, let's show one more thing really quickly. You can just take these songs right here and say, hey, set the songs, and then add a new song to it, .push, right, and stuff like that. But again, you'd never want to change this original variable. And so a good way to do this is, instead of just returning a new array here, the state updater handlers accept a function also, that the first argument is the current value in state. So this set songs function, state handler, this hook, takes in a function, if you want to, where the first parameter is the current songs in the playlist. And then we can take those and we can spread out those current songs, and then we can add the new song at the end of it. Now again, when you use the spread operator here, what it's doing is this. Const nums equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Const new nums equals nums 10. And so this new nums array is going to contain the result of spreading out this nums array into this array, also adding 10 to the end of it. So this ... spread operator is used all the time in JavaScript. And all it means is take each of the values in the previous array and spread them out inside this array. And it creates a copy of those values inside this array. So this is saying take 1, put it there, 2, put it there, 3, put it there, 4, put it there, 5, put it there, and then put 10 there. So this new nums array contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. And this spread operator is just a shorthand way of taking all of these values and spreading them out inside this array. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're passing a state updater function to the setSongs handler, and we're spreading out all the current songs in state, and then we're adding whatever the new song that we passed to it to the end of that array. And this returns an entirely new array with all of the previous songs plus the new song at the end. Now the reason why we did this is because this is like pretty explicit about what's happening here, and so we know that we don't need to set the songs ever. We can just use this add song function, and it'll do exactly what we expect it to. So instead of using the set songs, we can just pass add song here to our playlist component, and that playlist component can accept that in props and then pass it directly to our add track component. Add songs equals props dot add song. And notice how we're passing it 3 layers deep. We're passing it from the playlist component, or from the app component, to the playlist component, to the add track component. Now this add track component has access to that here. And so it has a prop called add song. So let's create a function called handle on submit here. So whenever we submit this form, we want it to take all those values and we want it to submit a new song. And so it has access to that here, props dot add new song. And let's just do a fake one. Whenever you click on this, we'll just say what is song name equals test, movie title is test, and duration equals 2:10. And then whenever we click on this button, we'll set an onClick handler to run this handle on submit function. Now when we do that, and we just click save, it should add a new track to the end of our list. And we can do it again, and it'll add another one, and another one, and another one. And this is exactly what that function is doing. So it is spreading out all of these original tracks and then appending the new track to the end of it. However, we don't want to just have test tracks here. We want whatever values are inside the form to be what's submitted. So let's do that. Now the way we're going to do that is we're going to take all of these values from state. We're going to construct the correct values here and pass those to props.addSong. So this is the part I wasn't looking forward to. There's some math here that I think we have to handle. Okay, let's do this. Let's say, because the duration is really the only one that's going to be tricky, right? So, okay, well, let's do it like this. Const new song equals song name is form.songname. Movie title is form.movietitle. And then duration is going to be, if we just, well, let's just see what happens if we just pass form.duration, right? Because right now, and then we just pass the new song, just to make sure this works, and then we'll handle that duration correctly next. So I could say test, 200, save, and it doesn't format it like a number. It does work though, which is great. We probably also want to clear these values as soon as that's done. So let's say set form, and let's set it back to the default values after the form has submitted. So we do this again, we run it, and ta-da! It adds the new one here, which still work whenever you click on these, and it clears the form. But let's do a quick little bit of formatting here, and then we'll wrap this up. So we want this duration to have the correct number of minutes and seconds. So we're going to take this duration in seconds, and we're going to do a calculation. Let's say const minutes equals number form.duration, and we'll divide it by 60, because that'll give us a number of, we need to round that down. Math.floor. Okay, so that'll be the number of minutes rounded down. Now let's get the seconds, and we'll get the seconds by taking the number form.duration, and we're going to use the modulus, and modulus just gets a remainder. So divide by 60 and get the remainder that's left over. That'll be the number of seconds. And so when we do that, we can then come in here, instead of saying form.duration, we can just create a string. And that string will contain the number of minutes and then the number of seconds. I think there's going to be a problem here with this too, but let's just at least see it in action. Okay, let's try it again. Test t 200. Let's save. Okay, that seemed to work, right? 600. Here's our problem. Now sometimes, especially when in JavaScript, it'll round that last number off, and so that's not quite ideal. There's actually, I think the best way to handle this is to use the international number formatter. And if you haven't used the international number formatter before, it's a really useful feature in JavaScript. You can just do this. Equals new international, and you see it's coming up here, dot number format. And we're going to use the English formatter, and this comes like with JavaScript. So this isn't a React thing. This isn't some fancy thing. You can just look up the MDN docs. It's just a nice little number formatter that does all kinds of cool things for us. What I'm doing here is I'm saying the minimum integer digits are 2. So it has to have at least 2 integer digits. And we're going to use that to format the second, so that if it starts with 0, it'll always have 2 values regardless. And so then I can just come in here and say formatter.format seconds. And let's try that again. So we'll say stuff, other stuff. What was it, 300? Did that work, what I did last time? And there we go. So now it's actually working. And ta-da! There we go. We have a fully functional playlist. We can add songs to it. Song, movie, 241, 240. And it works just like you would expect a playlist to. And this is starting to feel really good. There's so much more we could do with this, but I think that this course has done a pretty good job, at least, of covering the core principles behind React, how it works, and we ended up with a really cool playlist application which we can use as a baseline for building any React applications in the future. And so that's it for now. We'll do some more advanced React stuff later, but for the time being, this is a really good overview of the important principles in React and how they work.